What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here, and I'm really excited for today's video. Recently, I've been challenging my team of wholesalers to dive deeper into my content and really familiarize themselves with some of my most popular videos. In today's video, you're going to watch two of my full-time wholesalers present and explain to you ARV. That stands for After Repair Value. This is one of the most critical numbers and one of the most critical concepts as a real estate investor that you need to internalize, and you definitely need to get comfortable being able to predict or estimate what the after repair value of a property is. So in today's video, first we're going to start off with Tyler from my wholesale team, and he's going to break down for us high level the concept and the broad strategy around ARV. After that, Diego from my wholesale team is going to jump in and break down for you the tactics. So what little minutia, what little details do you need to be aware of when you're trying to create that apple to apples comparison when trying to determine what your after repair value will be? So again, I'm really excited for today's video. Make sure you jump in the comments section and show them some love. This is their first time really presenting anything on my YouTube channel. I think they did an amazing job. Let's dive into it. And again, make sure you smash that like button if you're getting value from these videos.
How's it going? My name is Tyler. I'm a wholesaler on Matt's team. Just going to do a presentation for you guys on calculating ARV, which is also known as after repair value. So what is ARV exactly? So what is after repair value? We're going to talk about how to calculate the after repair value, why it's important to calculate the ARV, and what data you really need to calculate the after repair value. So essentially, what is the after repair value? After repair value is essentially what the property will be worth once you do full renovation to that property. The ARV is a term used by investors all across North America. Is a very important skill to learn, as you will need to use this in order to calculate the renovation costs and be able to make purchases and find out the actual profit margins that you need. So calculating ARV. So how do you calculate the ARV? The first thing you will need to do is you will need to get some data. So let's say you're looking in the Hamilton market and you want to calculate the after repair value of a single family home. What you will need to do is you'll need to reach out to realtors and access some comparables, which will give you a general idea what properties are going for in that area. So if you're looking at a single family home, a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, for instance, you want to be looking around and seeing what a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom has sold for recently in the area. And this is also a good way to go by this is to consider this like an apples to apples comparison. Generally, what you're looking for in properties is you're looking to find a single family home that's identical to the other single family home, a townhouse that's similar to the same townhouse, and this is called apples to apples comparison. So what factors affect the after repair value? When you're looking at two separate properties, the age of the properties are very important. When you're looking and you see one property that's been built in the 80s and then the other property is built in 1900, it's going to be very hard to justify the after repair value because the building structure will be completely different. The size of the property is also very important. If you're looking at a 2-bedroom, 1-bath that's 1,000 square feet, opposed to a 2-bedroom, 1-bath that's 1,700 square feet, it's going to be very hard to justify. So you're going to try and find comparables that have the exact same square footage if all possible. Also, what you're looking for is the style and the layout. If you want to, this is considered apples to apples. So if you could find properties that have the exact same layout on the interior or at least very similar, it will definitely help your calculation. Location is obviously very important as well. Generally, when you're looking at comparables, you're looking for properties in the area. So within a 500 meter to 1,000 meter, 1 kilometer radius. Simply because those are like the pockets of the neighborhoods. And also one thing to consider when you're looking into after repair values is if you notice that there is like a major highway that runs through the city. For instance, if we talk about Oshawa, there's like the north end and the south end. If you have a property that's right along the 401 and there's a comparable across the 401, that will be completely different. So that's just something to keep in mind. Try and keep it on the same side. And yes, it is also very crucial that you are using recent comparables within the past few weeks, especially right now, the way the market's going with coronavirus happening. You need to have the most recent data at all possible. When the markets are very hot, you can generally give it a bit more leeway in timing. So that's the apples to apples comparison. I also have added here the quantitatively method of doing it, and this is by looking at properties and just going by comparison for price of square footage. If a home that is 1,000 square foot sold for 300,000 and you have a 1,000 square foot property, you can kind of justify the pricing based off the amount of square footage there. Another method would be considered the cap rate, and this is more meant for multifamily. Cap rate is a net operating income divided by the purchase price of the property. These can vary between 1 to 15%, let's say. They all have their different margins. Sorry, it might sound kind of complicated explaining here. I can talk about that further if you'd like. And then there's also the gross rent multiplier. This here is generally saying, some of you may have heard of the term 1% rule. That basically means when you're looking to buy a property from a rental perspective, if the property is generating $4,000 of rent, you're generally trying to buy that property at $400,000, and that is the 1% rule. So I can go further into this if you want more advice. Just let me know after the video here. So for an apples to apples comparison, now this is a property I recently got under contract in Hamilton. Obviously, not every single property you're looking at will have a comparison like this. This is, very rare that this does happen, but I figured this would be a perfect example. I bought this property right here, got under contract, and I had this ARV to work with. This 90 East Ave sold in January for $375,000. I actually did some research, and I was able to get the interior photos and all the details in regards to that. And this was a perfect property to go by to calculate the ARV, because if this property sold for $375,000 fully renovated, then I know that the similar property will go around the same price after it is fully renovated. So this is called apples to apples comparison. This is the best method, and you can't always find them, but if you do, that works out amazing for your style. So obviously, this is the same style of home, very exact property. They're the same size, built in the same year. I was able to find out the interior finishes of this property, which helped me justify the after repair value. This was simply by looking up 90 East Ave on Google and looking for old listings, and I happened to come across one, which definitely helps. Highly recommend doing that when looking for comparables. The location, of course, matters. You don't want to be buying a property. If you see a similar property 2 kilometers away, you don't want to be comparing that one. You still want to be trying to compare properties that are within that 500 to 1,000 meter range. And bedrooms and bathrooms are also very important when looking at properties. If you want to make sure, if you see properties selling, if you have a 3-bed, 2-bath, you want to be working with properties that are also 3-bed, 2-bath if possible. All right, so calculations, I'll try and keep it nice and simple here. This is from like a flipper's perspective. When calculating the after repair value for a flipper, if this property right here we have is fully renovated, let's say it would be 400,000. The flipper wants to profit, so he has his profit margins right here. So we have ARV minus the flipper profit margins equals the total cost of the property is what you're going to be paying for it. So generally you want this to be around the 75 to 80% of the after repair value. That is fairly standard for most flippers. If they can get the property at 75 to 80% of the after repair value, they're very happy with that. So I'll just break it down really quickly here. We have the after repair value minus the flipper profit margin. So in the flipper's profit margins, we have the renovation costs that they'll be paying, the carrying costs, because it will take a few months to renovate the property. The selling costs, this will include realtor fees, as they do take, let's say 4%, for instance. And then you also want to minus the profit that the flipper will generate from that flip. Generally, flippers are trying to profit 30,000 at a minimum, because there is risk involved. And if they don't get that 30,000 spread, then it doesn't make sense to go forward in the deal and spend a few months renovating. So after all these costs here, that brings you to your 75 to 80% of the after repair value. So just really quickly, this is a basic model here. I have let's say we have a property that after repair will be 400,000. The renovations will cost 40,000. The carrying cost will be 10,000. And the realtor fees will come up to 20,000 minus your profit here of the standard 30,000. You have your purchase price of 300,000, and going by the after repair value at 400,000, that is a 75% of the ARV. You're generally trying to buy it within 75 to 80% of the after repair value. And keep in mind, if you're wholesaling to a flipper, you will have to add that wholesale fee to the calculation. So just really quickly, flippers generally, they're looking for a $30,000 spread. So if you're trying to wholesale for flippers, have it in your calculations that the flipper will profit $30,000 from the flip. Also, when looking for flips, focus on areas that are active and in demand. You don't want to be buying a property to flip it if no properties have sold in that area in the past 3 or 4 months. For instance, I was looking at one in Peterborough. It looked to be a good deal. We wanted to buy it for a flip, but going through the comparables in the past 90 days, there wasn't even a single property that sold. So coming from a flipper's perspective, that doesn't really make sense because there's no activity in the market. You generally want to be flipping when the market's very hot. And if you don't know what markets are hot exactly or what areas are hot, don't be shy and feel free to reach out to realtors in the area and build a connection, and they may be able to help you out and find out what markets to target when looking for flips specifically. Another method for calculating ARV after repair value would be to calculate it through a BRRRR investor's model. This is a buy and hold investor. So essentially it's the same thing, but you don't resale it, of course. So there's no realtor fees, but your purchase price plus your renovation plus carrying / closing costs. So of course you're still going to be renovating over the few months. So let's say the after repair value is $400,000. You generally want to be buying it around the $270,000 range because your renovation will be $40,000, and your closing and carrying costs will be $10,000, making it $320,000 total, which will be your 80%. So it might sound complicated. If you have any questions, comment below, and I can try and explain it. Just trying to make it nice and simple here. Also, one thing to note during hot markets, for instance, flippers will get higher values than appraisals will appraise properties. That's not always, but most of the time. So when you're buying for a buy and hold perspective, and you're renovating it, when you get your appraisal, it may not be as high as what a flipper would get when they sell it. This is specifically for a hot market. If it's not in a hot market, it may be the other way, but generally the markets are going pretty hot. The nice thing about doing after repair values and calculating that and being able to use it for the BRRRR strategy is once you do your renovation, you'll be able to refinance from the profit. You'll have that 80,000 right here between the 400 and 320. You'll be able to refinance that and take that out. So the BRRRR strategy is very good for wealth building long term. So going back to ARV again, calculating ARV is a skill set. And if you are a brand new investor in the community, this is essential to learn and fully understand, because when you're looking at buying properties and negotiating with sellers, if you know the ARV beforehand, before making an offer on the property, it will give you a metric to go by, and you'll be able to pivot your negotiation based off of your after repair value. Because some sellers, when you're talking to them, they'll be like, oh, hey, you're trying to buy my house for 400,000. Well, that house down the road just sold for 600,000. And if you look at that property and it's completely different, then you can use that against them and hold that with your purchase price. It's very important to know, because when you know the after repair value, you can calculate what price you need to buy that property, and it'll help you with your negotiation, especially. And this will also be able to tell you if you have a good deal or not. If you're looking at a property and you know the after repair value is 400,000, but the seller he wants to sell for 350 and he's not budging whatsoever, you will know that is not a good deal, and you'll either keep negotiating to bring that price down to the below 300 range, or if he's not budging, then you will have to move on and find another deal, or obviously get more creative. And knowing the after repair value will be able to help determine whether it makes sense to buy a property for a flip or to buy it as a rental. If you have it at a certain price and to get to a flip, you need $40,000 of renovation, and it makes sense that way, then that works out great. If you buy it and you only need to put $20,000 in renovation to get your max rent from the property, that may be a better solution for you. It depends on the markets, of course, or where you're buying. Another topic I just want to talk about really quickly about the after repair value is that data really matters. What you really need to know before calculating after repair value is data. And I know Matt, Adam, Ben as well, they always bring up how data is important, and it's extremely important because sellers will try and negotiate against you, of course. So when you have the data when you're negotiating, it will hold you to that price point that you have because you have proof what's been going on. So in order to get the data for properties for the after repair value, you need to reach out to realtors or go on Geo Warehouse, and it will pull up the recent comparables in that area for the past 90 days, 180 days, whatever specifically you want. You could ask your realtor and they'll be able to help you out. And as well, going by the recent sales will determine what strategy is best for your investment. This is specifically true for like a flipping perspective. Like I mentioned earlier, you want to be, if you're buying for flips, you want to be buying in hot markets. And if you have the recent sales in the area, you'll be able to tell whether that's a hot market or there is not much activity. So will it make sense to buy it for a flip? It really varies based off the activity in that market, and the data will help you determine that. Also, when you have the data, it will help you understand the numbers, which will give you more confidence in purchasing your properties. When you know that the ARV is 400,000 and you need it for 300,000, when you're talking to the seller, you need it at 300,000, and you know this because the data state proves it for you. And this will also give you knowing the data will also give you a basic understanding of how the market is in that general area and where it's heading, which is also extremely valuable when you're specifically focusing on a specific market. Okay, guys, thank you. That's all I want to talk about today. If you're a beginner investor, I just have 3 quick tips that may help you out. When you're looking into ARVs and looking to buy a property, for instance, I would recommend learning one business strategy and getting really good at that business model and just mastering that business model over time before moving on to the next one. There's obviously the flipping model, the BRRRR model. There's multiple models, but if you could dial in on one specifically, that'll help you out tremendously over the long run. Understand your markets that you're looking in as well. So if you're looking to buy in the Hamilton market, reach out to local investors in that market, reach out to realtors in that market, study what's been happening in that market, what are the largest employers, what schools they have and whatnot. So that could also be very beneficial. And one last thing is train your mindset. This might be a little off topic, but if you train your mindset, this is a long-term game. You want to be thinking positively because there will be bumps on the road. And this Cashflow Tribe community, for instance, is fantastic for that. Your mindset will get stronger because you're working with like-minded individuals. So that's my slideshow here on calculating ARV. Hope you guys liked it.
All right, that's it for Tyler. If you guys want to follow along with Tyler on his journey as a wholesaler, check out the video description down below. We'll throw up his IG and Facebook profile so you can get in contact because Tyler is constantly getting amazing deals across Southwestern Ontario. So if you're looking to buy wholesale deals, make sure you hit up Tyler. Otherwise, let's dive into Diego's video now, where he breaks down for us the real tactics behind understanding and internalizing the concept of after repair value.
My name is Diego Terraza. I'm part of the wholesale team. I'm going to be talking about what's the importance of calculating ARV and the purchase price. So what is ARV? ARV will stand for after repair value. This is something that most seasoned investors already know. This is a presentation more for the new investors on the Alpha Group, so you see the importance of the ARV. So ARV basically is the value of a property after the repairs and the upgrades that have been made on the house. This is the price, the market price. So just like everything, there is a law of supply and demand. So the ARV can always be different, right? There's going to be times where the values are high. There's going to be times where the values are not going to be that high. It all depends, right? It all depends how much demand, how many buyers do you have on the market, how many sellers do you have on the market. Right now on COVID-19, you might see a shortage of houses, or after this, probably you're going to see a big surge of houses for sale. That can affect the price, that can bring it down, that can bring it up, right? So why is important? Why does this matter? Well, it is going to be critical to your success as a real estate investor. Doesn't matter what the strategy that you use, if you're a flipper, if you're a BRRRR investor, or if you're a wholesaler. A flipper needs these ARV to know what the market is willing to pay for the flip, right? As a BRRRR investor, what is your appraiser going to value the house at? How much renovations are you going to put in? How much money can you get out of the house when you refinance? And as a wholesaler, it's going to depend a lot, right? So you need your ARV to know who your buyer is going to be. Are you going to sell to a flipper? Are you going to sell to a buy and hold investor? who are you going to sell it to? Are you going to wholesale? How much money do you want to make as a wholesale fee? Do you want to make $10,000, $15,000, $20,000? So ARV, how you look at it will depend on the exit strategy and the investment style that you do, right? So what do you need to know the ARV? The most important thing is the comparables in the area, right? So for example, I feel comfortable doing at least 3 or 4 comparables from the area from the last previous weeks, like sold houses that from the previous weeks, not more, if I can, not more than a month, because this will give me accurate and updated values for the houses around. Then, so this would be the most important thing, the comparables, because if a house has sold for $350 and another one has sold for $385 and another one sold for $345, then you can average that, and that is going to be kind of like your ARV. So you have to see the age of the building. How long was it? Built ago? Like, is it a 15-year-old cookie cutter house in a neighborhood, or is it a 1800 a house from the 1800s built on the Old East, right? What's the style of the home? Is it a bungalow, semi-detached, duplex, right? You can't compare a duplex to a single family home because everything is going to be different. Incomes are going to be different. Everything, renos, everything is going to be different. So you got to compare a bungalow to a bungalow, a semi-detached to a semi-detached, because that's what the market is telling you that it's selling for. So then you need to see the square footage. You're not going to compare 1,000 square foot to a 2,000 square foot house, right? It doesn't make sense. Rooms are going to be bigger. Kitchens are going to be bigger. House is going to be bigger. Again, we go with the sizes. You want to see the lot size also. Is the lot 2 times bigger than the one that you're looking at? Can that lot be severed, right? Can you severe that lot and make another home there? All those things matter. Then you got location, neighborhood, zoning. Everything is important, because are you going to be flipping a single family home? Is it on a good school area? Is it close to supermarkets, fun stuff to do with the kids? Are you going to be doing a rental? Is it close to Fanshawe? Is it close to Western? Right? So everything matters. The zoning matters, because maybe on one street it's a zoning for single family homes, but maybe 2 streets down you can build duplexes, right? So everything matters. Condition of the house and the age of renos. As a wholesaler, you're going to find sometimes people tell you like, oh yeah, I just did the roof. Okay, how long was that ago? Like 15 years ago. Okay, you just redid the kitchen. They might have like a really nice kitchen, but then the rest of the house is really shady, right? So everything matters. And what amenities do you have? Do you have garage, extra parking? Does it have a pool in the back? Does it have a big backyard, etc., right? So always compare apples to apples. That's something that Matt always says. You gotta always compare apples to apples. You're not gonna compare apples to watermelons or anything else. So moving on, why something important as a new investor that you always need to remember. Renos are not the only expense when you're calculating ARV. You have closing costs, which are land transfers, legal fees, home inspections, realtor fees, and of course, you have the holding costs, right? The property taxes, utility insurance, interest. All this is going to depend how big is your project. So it depends really on how big of a scope of a job and the size of the project is, right? So a single family home and that just needs a couple of repaints and, just cosmetic stuff, their holding cost is going to be way lower than a flipper that is redoing the whole thing, gutting the house and redoing the whole thing, right? My dad always said that there's 2 things on life that you can't get rid of, and that's death and taxes. If you're a real estate investor, You can add holding costs and closing costs. Of course, taxes already on the holding costs. So you're going to have 4 things you can get rid of. So moving on, normally this costs will come to about 6 to 7%, which you have to take in mind when you're calculating that ARV, right? So Diego, what's the secret formula? All right, so for flippers, you can look at it like this, ARV. So let's say there's a home for 400K. You're gonna subtract your desired profit from that, the amount of renovations that you need to do, the holding costs and the closing cost, what's the selling cost, like you're gonna have to pay a realtor and everything. And then did you pay a wholesale fee for that? Did you find it yourself on the market, right? This is gonna give you the purchase price that you can pay. For a BRRRR investor, you're gonna actually want to have the ARV and multiply that by 80%. Why is that? Because normally when you refinance, your refinance is gonna be the ARV at LTV 80, right? 80 LTV. So then you subtract also the holding and closing cost. Also, did you pay a wholesale fee or did you not? Did you find it yourself on the market, off market, whatever? That's going to give you your purchase price, right? And as a wholesaler, you have to run the numbers. Is this a good deal for a flipper? Do the numbers make sense for a long-term rental? How much do I want to make as a wholesaler? Do I want to make $10,000? Do I want to make $15,000? Do I want to make $20,000? That's going to depend a lot on how much work you're putting into the deal, right? So if you have to negotiate hard to get that price down so it can be a good deal for a flipper, then add your value in there. Is your value worth 15, 20K? If it is, put it in there, right? So moving on, let's go to an example. So let's say you're a wholesaler and want to know how much you can offer on a property. So you do your due diligence, of course, comps in the area. You find out that they have sold around for 400K in the last couple of weeks. So immediately you have your ARV, right? It's $400,000. So then you you do a walkthrough through the home and you see that the bathroom needs redoing, the kitchen needs redoing and stuff like that. And you calculate that your renos are going to go like around for $35,000. You say, hey, I got a friend, a flipper. He's going to want this place. He does a lot of business in this neighborhood. So you say, okay, this flipper, I know he wants to do $30,000 profit minimum, right? So you say, okay, so I have to, of course, subtract those $30,000. And this is an easy deal, and I want to make easy $10,000. So you come and you say, okay, so my purchase price for this, as a wholesaler, what I can offer is going to be those $400,000 of your ARV minus the $30,000 of profit that the flipper wants to make, minus $35,000 of renovations, minus $10,000 of wholesale fee, minus holding costs. You calculate 5, 6, 7%, whatever you want to calculate, or maybe you can talk to your flipper and tell him like, hey, normally what's the percentage of your holding costs, right? He or she may actually work really fast, and their wholesale and their closing holding costs might be actually really low, right? But normally when you pay a realtor, everything a 5, 6% is normal, right? So you subtract those $28,000 from the $400,000, which is the holding and closing, and you come with a purchase price. Okay, me as a wholesaler, what I can offer is 297 tops, right? So people might say like, oh wow, the house is worth 400,000, but you're offering 297. But of course, you're talking like you're a wholesaler. You found this deal off market. These people is struggling with something, and he needs the money, right? He or she needs the money. So this is where your negotiation skills come to play, and your data is telling you, look, Mr. Seller, yes, this house is worth $400,000, and he might tell you like, oh, my neighbor's home just sold for $400,000, and you can tell him or her, yes, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, the house next door is worth $400,000, but it has brand new floors, brand new kitchen, open space concept, et cetera, right? Yours is a 1970 home and you've never done anything. There's mold on it, blah, 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 right? So that's how you negotiate the price. And that's how you tell him, look, I need to put $35,000 in here, and more stuff, right? So moving on with this, like rehab costs that you need to always be aware. There's 25 components normally on the rehabs. That's going to be your roof, siding, decks and porches, concrete, garage, landscape, septic system, foundation, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, framing, gutters, garage, exterior paint, installation, sheetrock, carpentry, which is doors, windows, and trim, interior painting, cabinets, countertops, flooring, permits, mold, termites, and miscellaneous stuff that is always going to come, right? So these are the 25 renovation components that you always need to look. If you're doing a walkthrough, these are the 25 things that you have to be aware of all the time. So then factors that will impact the rehab costs: location. Renovation costs will have different amounts in different locations, right? So both material and labor prices are going to be very based on where you do the projects. For example, Toronto won't have the same reno costs like we have here in London, or probably Vancouver won't have the same prices that Calgary has, right? So then contractors also, like, there's different contractors. They will charge different prices. This may have to do with their level of skill, their level of self-awareness, how good they are, how busy they are. So a good practice always is to talk to your network, ask for referrals, like, hey guys, do you know any good contractors? Normally these people that have been investing a lot, they will know good contractors that are already like in the game, that know how to work with investors, right? So it's always good for referrals from that network that are already doing what you want to do. And then just as a good practice, also always ask for quotes, right? They are free. Like, a contractor is not going to charge you for quotes. So go to 3 to 4 different contractors, ask for referrals from the contractors, and then, just a good practice, get quotes. That way you can see what's the difference in prices and the quality of work that they do. Another thing is the level of finish that you want to do. So it all depends, right? Your renos are going to depend. Are you going to put a $150 per square foot vinyl flooring, or are you going to put a $6 per square foot solid oak wood, right? Are you going to put new stainless steel appliances, or are you just going to use refurbished white ones? The level on which you finish your property can make a huge difference in the cost of your renos. So it's all going to depend. Are you going to do a high-end flip? Are you going to do a low-end flip? Are you going to be BRRRRing? Normally, if you're going to BRRRR, you just want to do like the regular finishes, leave a nice apartment, but you're not going to do like overdo them, because at the end, those lenders, they will give you 80% of the ARV, right? So you want to stay under that so you can actually build in equity when you refinance those loans. So then the specifics of the house, is it a big house? Is it a small house? Is it a 15-year-old house? Is it a $1,800 house, right? So a 100-year-old house with all electrical, all plumbing won't be the same as a 15-year-old cookie cutter house that has brand new electrical, or the HVAC is good. So yeah, everything is relative, right? Time of the year, normally, let's say here in Canada, you're going to see a slowdown on winter, and then spring and summer is when the demand starts to get crazy, right? Right now in COVID-19 times, well, that's been a little bit different, but that's how it normally goes. And then building codes, again, building codes are going to be different in every province or every state for the people in the United States. But here on Canada, it's going to be different building codes. Even from London to St. Thomas, there's different building codes, permits, everything. It's going to be different, right? So always taking in care of that. So in conclusion, guys, every successful investor will have his or her own framework for evaluating the scope of a potential deal. As a wholesaler, it is my duty to understand the numbers and present an attractive deal to you buyers. So thank you very much, everyone, for your attention. As I mentioned yesterday, I have a really nice spreadsheet that I did for everyone who wants it. There's a link for a form there that I posted. You can go to my previous live. Also, I posted on the comments the link. You can fill out that form. I'll send you a really nice Excel spreadsheet, the one that I use all the time to run the numbers. You can go to my, as I said, you can go back to my live, and I kind of go over it. And so just fill that form and I'll send it to you gladly. And thank you very much. Have a good day, guys.
All right, that's it for this masterclass on after repair value. If you guys are looking for more content around this concept, I've actually done a 1-hour training that you can watch for free in the Cashflow Tribe Alpha group. If you haven't checked out Cashflow Tribe, there'll be a link in the video description down below where you can sign up for a free 14-day trial. Check it out, binge at this point in time, I think there's hundreds of hours of content in there. Binge the hundreds of hours of content in the first 13, 14 days. Cancel your subscription. No harm, no foul. You won't get charged anything. You're not going to hurt my feelings, but I would really love for you to check it out, especially during this time when you're probably got more free time because you're self-isolating, you're under quarantine, and you're social distancing. So again, if you guys enjoyed this video or anything we're doing on my channel, smash the like button. If you're new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And until next time, remember, making money is a team sport. There's more than enough money in this world for us to all make it. But if you're not saving it, I mean, like, what's the point? Thanks, guys.